Hi all, I am Anna Thomas from the Department of Renewable Energy. So today we'll be dealing with a new topic called energy, environment and development. So let's start. So let's begin with this word development. What do we mean by development? We all know that development means progress, right? Progress is the development we show in a country. So there are many ways in which a country can be classified based on their development. You have heard that, right? Can you just name some type of classifications on which a country or classification on based on development is done? One is developed. We have heard there are developed countries, then there are developing countries, there are also underdeveloped countries. These are the basic three classifications under which a country's development is categorized. So if I ask you what are the factors which depend, or what are the factors on which a country's development is dependent on? What are they? One we can assume one is the lifestyle of people. So when we go from a rural area to an urban area, we have noticed that the lifestyle of people change. They start using more of facilities, more infrastructure, more technology, right? So that is one. The standard of living of the people change. So definitely that time development happens, or we can say improvement in the standard of living has happened. Next point is the level of industrialization. What do we mean by industrialization? Number of industries or the manufacturing plants increase. So when industries increase, there are definitely improvement. People get more jobs, the income of national income increase. So that is another sign of development of a country. Third one is the amount of technological infrastructure. Technological infrastructure means more of technical, more of IT companies come in, more of bigger buildings and multinational companies come in. So that is a sign of development. The fourth factor is the gross national income. National income, how do we mainly get our income? A nation's income is basically dependent on taxes. We all know that, right? So when tax, how do we get tax? We can get road tax, there is service tax. So if the income has to increase, definitely there has to be more of facilities in our country. So these are the factors on which a country's development depends. So there is an important concern here. So when we analyze this, we know that when development increases or when the infrastructure and the facilities increases, it indirectly means that we are extracting more of the energy from our environment. More resources from our energy or from our environment is being utilized. So that in turn leads to what we call environmental pollution. So definitely there has to be a development on one side, but when this development happens, simultaneously what also comes along? Pollution or environmental degradation comes. So there has to be a trade-off between these two quantities, right? So that is a concern which has to be addressed. There are many studies or theories going on to analyze this relation between environmental development and environmental development and economic growth. So one such study is the EKC curve, or you can say it is the environmental Kuznets curve. So according to this curve is proposed by Crossman and Kruger, two scientists. Okay. So according to this curve, what it says that in the initial years of development, or when a country is developing from the underdeveloped to a developed stage, when it is going, there will definitely be a degradation in the environment. That is what is shown here. So in the initial, the x-axis is income per capita. Income per capita is what? Capita means per head. Or if you consider a small region, the amount or the income they earn per year, or the average income they earn per year is the income per capita. So when we consider that, in the initial years, there will be definitely, as the income increases, environment worsens. Y-axis is environmental pollution. So this is linearly increasing. But there will be definitely a turning point. We'll reach a point where even if the income increases, even if there is a progress in the country, the pollution or the harm it causes the environment gradually starts decreasing. So this is the turning point. So that this curve is called the EKC curve. This is just one of the many studies that is going on to analyze the relation between environmental pollution and economic growth. Okay, hope this graph is clear. I'll just explain once more. According to this curve, it means that during the initial years of development, there will definitely be a degradation in the environment. But as this degradation or as the income increases, there will be definitely a turning point. A point will reach where such that even if the income increases, the pollution or the worsening to the environment gradually starts decreasing. Okay. So there has to be a trade-off. We have to do more on studies on this. Now we are coming to the Indian energy scenario. In the Indian energy scenario, when you come, we know that there are many types of classification. We can classify energies into different types. One such classification is the primary and secondary energy. Second one is the commercial and non-commercial. Third is the renewable and non-renewable. So we are going into detail into each of the types of energy classification. Let's go into the first type, which is the primary energy and the secondary energy. Okay, so from the word itself, primary energy, what does primary energy mean? Primary means something which is abundantly available as it is. In the raw form, it is available in our nature. So that is what is called the primary energy. We can say the examples are like, we have plenty of coal, we have plenty of sunlight. Even in the moving wind, there is energy. So solar energy is there, wind energy is there, as well as we have natural gas or coal, such fossils are there, buried fossils are there. These are all energies in its raw form. We are not transforming it, we are not changing it into any other form to get another form. Okay, when some sources are there in their natural form, we call them primary energy. The examples are cited here. Coal is available as it is. Oil, natural gas. What is biomass? Biomass means the degraded element, the accumulated matter found when from agricultural waste, from crops, residues, animal waste, etc. Compose or accumulate to form biomass. Then there is kinetic energy in wind. The moving wind, we all know that there is kinetic energy. Such wind as such, or such energies, forms of energy as such, is called primary energy. The second type, now we have discussed what primary energy is. The second type is the secondary energy. Okay, so what could be secondary? Primary, when it is in the raw form, it is primary energy. When we transform this primary energy into some other form, we call it secondary. It undergoes a transformation to become a secondary energy. Okay, so examples are shown here. One is petroleum products. We know how do we obtain petroleum products? From depositions, right? So petroleum products are there. Then there is electricity. Electricity we obtain from coal. Then there is biofuel. These are all energy forms which are obtained from a previous version of energy. That is called a secondary energy. So this is a more clearer depiction of the difference between primary and secondary. We know that primary are the raw forms of energy. They include natural gas, waste, biomass, wind, etc. Tides are the tidal waves. These are all primary sources. When these primary sources undergo a type of transformation, we get what we call as secondary energy. So just see, here we know that from biomass we can extract biofuels. Could you name some examples, biofuels which are used or which substitute our petrol and diesel? There are many biofuels like ethanol, biodiesel, etc. These are all substitutes which can be used as a renewable energy source. These are all obtained from a primary component, which is why we call this a secondary energy source. Then there is crude oil. From crude oil we obtain petroleum products. So this is the way primary and secondary is classified. This is the first type of classification. The secondary energy is being utilized for consumption. Okay, so hope this first category classification is familiar. The next one is commercial and non-commercial energy. This also, from the name it is clear. What is commercial? Commercial means any commodity which is valuable or which is placed at an economic price. We need to purchase it at an economic price. A commodity which has a particular value in the market is called a commercial product. So commercial energy means the energy for which you purchase or you pay it for money. You pay money for it and utilize it, it becomes commercial energy. Next is the non-commercial energy. So very general examples of commercial are, electricity. We pay for the electricity we consume to the KSCB, right? So that is a commercial energy product. Another one is the petrol, the fuels we use, the automobile fuels. These are all purchased at a particular price, so we call them commercial energy. Non-commercial is the type of energy which are available in the nature and we are not paying anything for it. We can use them as it is in the atmosphere. Okay, so just showing them with some figures to make it clear. Coal, electricity, petroleum, these are all, we know that these are the commercial sources of energy. Non-commercial are the firewood, agricultural waste, dry dung. These are all organic sources for this, which are available in plenty and we do not purchase them at a fixed rate. So this is the second type of classification. We first dealt with the primary and secondary energy classification. Second is the commercial and non-commercial energy classification. The third one is renewable and non-renewable. This is very familiar. We have been going through this renewable and non-renewable sources for a very long time. We know renewable means one which is abundantly available. It never gets exhausted. It is available. It is eco-friendly. It doesn't cause harm to the environment. That is why we call it renewable. It can be obtained again and we can renew it. Since it is found, it's a gift of nature like solar, wind, thermal, biomass, geothermal, etc. But what about the non-renewable? Non-renewable are the ones which are exhaustible, which gets depleted. It gets depleted means we have it only in limited quantities. The more you take it, the more it gets depleted. So that is the third classification. There is no need to go into the details because these are the things we already know. Next, we are coming into the Indian energy scenario. When you come to the Indian energy scenario, just from where do we get this energy? We are just classifying it with the help of a pie chart. So in this chart, It is basically showing the percentage-wise production. Out of the 100%, mostly 61% of our energy is from coal. That is what is denoted by this. These are just average figures, maybe may not be exact, but this gives us an idea of the percentage-wise production in our country. Okay, 61% of the capacity or our energy production is from coal. Then we have 15% from hydro. 13% is from the only 13% is there from the renewable energy source. So this component has to be increased. Next is from 9% is from natural, and very less than 2 or approximately 2% is from nuclear. So when we just get a glance at it, we can observe that nearly 61% of the energy production is from coal. So now we are going into the individual wise categorization. We are just going to have a vague idea of what it is going to happen in each of the industries. First one is the coal supply. Just as we saw now, we know that 61% of the total energy production is from coal. Okay, so as we know, when coal gets used up more, it gets depleted. It is from coal that we use more other resources. So here when we see that in coal, which are the basic states which produce coal, that is given here. Then there are just statistical figures which shows the coal reserves. This is the value. These are you needn't by heart all these values. Just have a rough idea as to the percentage of production or percentage of consumption, as well as which are the states which produce coal. That is what is told here. Nearly we know 61% of our production or capacity is from coal. There are many reserves as 84,396 million tons are there. These are the recoverable reserves. This is just 8.6% of the world reserves. That is what we should understand. Just India holds only 8.6% of the world capacity of coal. Okay. Then these are the states which produce or which has more concentrated coals. Next, we'll come to the oil supply. Oil supply, we all know that almost nearly 90% of our oil is from outside. We get it from we are importing it, right? Only 10% we can produce here. Our capacity is very less. Mostly from Saudi and Arab countries, we import coal. So that is a main concern. It is high time that we cultivate more or we start depending and relying more on renewable fuels. So one such fuel is the biofuel. Biofuel, which can be extracted from biomass. Biofuel is obtained, like examples are the bioethanol is there, biodiesel is there. Such fuels can be extracted and utilized more, which are eco-friendly. It doesn't get depleted. We can recreate it again and again. So it's high time our oil supply, mostly 90% comes from outside. We are paying a huge price. It's a commercial product. So we are paying a huge price for that. Here also just vague figures are given as to how many barrels per day consumption happens in India. That figure is given. What is our ranking for oil consumption? We are consuming, we stand third in the position of oil consumption. So that is also a concern. So these are the two categories, coal supply and oil supply are the basic two categories where we have gone through now. So just understand that oil supply, and in the case of oil supply, we stand third, and that is world's total consumption, we stand at the third position. So that is another concern. And as I said, 90% is from outside. So even though we consume so much, it's high time we depend more on renewable sources to get an idea. So in today's session, I am winding up the session with just these two. Coal supply, we have discussed. Oil supply also we have discussed. So these are the two. This is the Indian energy scenario. We are not looking at it globally. In India, 61% we obtain from coal. Almost 20 to 30% of our production is from oil. Of this, 90% has been imported. So this has given a rough idea as to how much of energy our country is producing and from which all factors it is producing. Hope it is clear. Thank you.